What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about Bitcoin Cash today. Shout out to the Dragon Riders in the House of the Dragon. Hit that like button, you guys, and subscribe. Thank you all for being here. It is the 11th day of February. Here we are sitting at about $510 with roughly 4 days left in this week. We've got about 8 hours, 30 minutes left in this day. Moving down a little bit, this was to be expected. Even from the highest points here, we were calling for prices to come back down. It's really not that big of a deal, right? We're not that far away from these highs. We go down as low as I think we can go. We're still not that far away from these highs. I do believe that from here we will go lower and we will form a higher low relative to this low here. I don't believe that we'll form a lower low. I do believe Bitcoin will form a lower low, and maybe various other cryptos as well, but Bitcoin Cash has been holding up very, very well, my friends. I'm very happy with Bitcoin Cash, and again, this chart, looking at this on the monthly time frame, the reason I had it brought up was just I made a post on x.com yesterday saying this exact same thing, that this is one of the most bullish, not one of the most, this is the most bullish setup in all of crypto. And it might be the most bullish setup in the whole damn world. I don't know. I've been looking for charts that look better than this. And whenever I say better, I mean as a setup. I don't mean in a trend. There are charts that have trends like Amazon or Facebook. They have gold, right? They've got much, much better trends. But as far as a setup goes, this, you guys, it's perfect. It's perfect. And I think there's hesitation here for various reasons. And hesitation, when we're about to break out, is very rarely bad. Like, hesitation on a price perspective standpoint is bad, but hesitation on a psychological standpoint, you don't want people, if the whole market was agreeing with me, if every YouTuber that I saw, or everybody was like, you know what, this is the most bullish chart, it's going to go up, it's the only one that's going to be good, I'd be scared. But the fact that everybody is hesitant, and they see this chart for what it is, and they know TA, and they know what it is, and they're still hesitant to buy this thing. You know, you don't hear any of the big YouTube accounts talking about this thing. There are some there are some larger, I shouldn't say like larger accounts, but like accounts like my size, maybe a little smaller, maybe a little bit bigger, that talk about Bitcoin Cash. But it's not talked about the same way that like Zcash was talked about, or Dash even. And those are coins that have dramatically lower market caps. I'm getting beside myself here. Let's talk about the TA. Let's talk about the TA. The main thing that I wanted to say is just that this it's so beautiful. It literally is perfect. Let's look at the short-term stuff. We'll zoom back out from there. Okay, so looking at this on the 1 hour time frame, certainly does look like we kind of want to move over. We want to roll over and move down. It kind of does look like that, right? We have this angelic inverse head and shoulders, or this seagull look here, the seagull of riches and glory, right? Of faith, optimism, hope, and destiny. It's very possible, and I did say this, I think, yesterday, that we go below this low and that we don't go below this low, right? It's very possible that that outcome comes into play. From a low to a high here, the 382 is just below this line. Statistically speaking, if we break below the 236, you're likely going to at least go to the 382, if not lower. So going below this low is definitely a possibility. Going below this low, finding support at this point of resistance, which is just below 382, finding support somewhere right there just below $500, around like 490, 485, is a very strong possibility. If we go lower, we could bounce off the 0.5. Bitcoin Cash likes its 0.5. It likes to bounce between the 0.5 and the golden ratio zone, or maybe we go right to the golden ratio zone itself. Maybe we do. Here, we have a slightly higher high than all of these other highs. Maybe we form a slightly lower low here, and it's a true inverse head and shoulders pattern, but like a slanted inverse head and shoulders pattern. I don't know. The volume profile isn't right. It wouldn't hurt my feelings if this isn't an inverse head and shoulders pattern. If we break out to the downside, it's not going to perform the same way as a busted inverse head and shoulders pattern, but it looks pretty interesting. However, I do believe that we're going to come down. The 1 hour RSI, we look at this here, it's very clear that we are in a downtrend, right? Lower lows, lower highs. We just rejected. We're probably going to come down. We're very near the end of this move, but I do think that we're going to come down. We have a flat kind of plateau here with descending lows, descending highs. So, yeah, we're probably going to come down. I would think below $490. I think that we will see prices below $490. I don't believe we will see prices below 460. Let's say 460. 465, something like that. Somewhere between 490, 460, 465, somewhere in that range. Probably not specifically either of those levels, but something in between. That's what I'm expecting, okay? You look at the stochastics, they're bearish. The MACD, of course, is also bearish. Yes, you guessed it. 4-hour time frame here, looking at this, rolling over, looking bearish, looking like you want to make another stab down to the oversold zone. You had hidden bearish divergence. Stochastics look bearish. The MACD, you broke above the zero. Now here's the one positive thing. You did break above the zero, and now you're back at the zero. This could be a point at which you find support. That doesn't mean that you have to find support right here. You still could, in a 4-hour time frame, make like a stab down like this, and then close back up higher. Maybe at some point today we find our low, and then some point tomorrow or the next day we start to move up higher. This gives me a little bit of optimism that we will. I shouldn't say a little bit of optimism. It's something to build the case that wherever this low comes in, we still have an area to find support at. We're still going to be, and even with the RSI, right? Imagine that we come down. We're also going to have something with the RSI here in this kind of higher low trajectory. We're going to have that maybe not bullish divergence, but that bullish trajectory here. And the stochastics being oversold. There's a lot to suggest that we're very near a point to bounce. And again, I think I nailed it on the head whenever I said I think Bitcoin sees lower lows, but I don't think Bitcoin Cash sees lower lows. Okay. Lower prices than this, sure, but not lower lows. How much are we talking about? Because I am convinced that we'll go, if I'm saying 490 to 465, 460, let's just go in between. Let's do like 475, 480. It's like a 6 to 8% drop from here. Nothing crazy. Nothing crazy. Daily time frame, looking at this here. RSI looks like it's going to reject, right? You're in that same kind of formation again, right? Lower highs, lower lows, all in this here. Come down, get your bounce off that oversold zone. Perfect, whatever. And if I'm wrong and we do go lower, if we go lower than that low and we close like below this low, guess what? We're going to have bullish divergence on our daily RSI and our stochastics and our MACD. So if, get this, right? We're kind of like blindly confident here with like a lot backing us. Likely we don't see a lower low. And in that sense, that's bullish in itself. Bouncing off the golden ratio, the 0.5, whatever, where Bitcoin Cash normally bounces, that's a bullish thing. We have this potential inverse head and shoulders pattern, however weird it looks. Maybe it's just a three-pronged kind of low, whatever, the pitchfork of destiny, the trident of truth, whatever it is. But even if that doesn't uphold, even if we get a lower close here, we still have bullish divergence on the RSI. We still have bullish divergence on the stochastics, and we will have bullish divergence on the MACD as well. So we can't really go wrong here. Even if I am wrong and we don't find support between 460 and 490, 465, 490, I feel like is more appropriate, and we go lower, we're not going to go too much lower, and it won't be too long that we're down there. We're probably going to recover in a very short amount of time. I want to look at the XCN BTC chart, or not XCN, I'm sorry, Bitcoin Cash BTC. Let's see. I mean, you guys, right? How many charts look like this versus Bitcoin right now? Bullish on the RSI, bullish on the stochastics, bullish on the MACD. Look at that. You back tested the zero and bounced. You're just getting up here. This is like the beginning of another phase higher. You look at the weekly time frame. Bullish on the weekly RSI, bullish on the stochastics. Mega bullish on the weekly MACD, you guys. Like this is probably one of the most bullish charts in crypto right now, is the fact that Bitcoin Cash is beating BTC, and it has been consistently doing that for about a year. Since February of 2025, we've been in this uptrend, uncontested. Of course, you've been in a downtrend much longer than that. We still do have macro lower highs and lower lows overall. We're very, very close to changing that. Very, very close to changing that. I'm kind of curious here, real quick. From a high to a high here, that was a 64% difference, it looks like. We're going to keep doing this. High to a high here, that was a 41% difference. High to a high here, that was a 89% difference. High to a high here. Oh, come on. It wasn't 41, it was like, why is it doing this? I'm just going to do this, screw the magnet. It was more like 47%, whatever. The high to the high there was about 32%. Okay, so that's the lowest one so far that we've seen, 32%. This one's bigger. This one's going to be bigger. These highs are tied up, okay? We haven't seen a lower high in all of Bitcoin Cash's history that was less than 32%, right? A lower high. They've all, so this high right here, this lower high that we have right now is 36% away from this high. What I'm getting at here, at least the thought that I'm trying to promote, the logic in my head would be, the closer we get to this high, the more likely we are to break out of it. Every high, every gap between highs that we've had has been much larger than 32%. We had one that was 32%. So if we can get above 32% in closeness, statistically speaking, we're doing something different. Statistically speaking, I would expect a different result, not the same result. And pair that with the rounded bottom, right? That's a by itself, all by itself, just doing that analysis by itself is not helpful. But I'm using that as kind of an end thought to this overall thought that I've shared with you guys over the months to come. So anybody who's seeing this video for the first time, you might look at that and think, that's not enough to be bullish. But we've got way more than that. We've got, again, a year of uptrend versus Bitcoin. Everything else has been going down versus Bitcoin. Others, Bitcoin itself, they've all been dropping, but this thing's been going up versus Bitcoin. It's been outperforming Bitcoin healthily for the past year from a low to a high point. I didn't get the actual low, but you're up over 100%. You have done literally twice as good as Bitcoin has, probably even more than that. 150% since a year ago. If you held Bitcoin Cash, you bought Bitcoin Cash 1 year ago, you are 150% more in the green than you would be if you held Bitcoin. That's pretty crazy. A coin, a crypto, by the way, oh damn it, that I'm on the top 100 to 200. A coin that's in the top 10 now. That fought its way back from like the top 20 to the top 10. It's in the top 10 right now. And the reason why it's here is not because it grew to exceptional valuations. It's because everything else that was overpriced dropped back, and this held its value. It's held its value this whole time. BCH, BTC, rounded bottom. The momentum is shifting. We look at the weekly time frame, and everything is super bullish here, guys. It's really, really bullish. 2-week time frame there, very bullish as well. What about the monthly time frame? Super bullish. Literally the most bullish readings we've ever gotten on the RSI and on the stochastics. And this is the closest that the MACD has ever been. This is the longest green streak the MACD's ever had. This is the closest it's ever been to crossing above the zero. There are big things happening, you guys. There are very big things happening right now. I want to look at the ribbon. And again, this is the chart priced in Bitcoin, not priced in dollars, okay? Man. I want to see if I can find an example. It's just sad that we don't have too many examples, because this is the only example of this, so you're just gonna have to take it on blind faith here. But when you are in a downtrend like this, your yellow line's down, typically what you do is you find resistance right at it, just like that. You find resistance right at it, just like that. Maybe you come up into it a little bit, but then you find resistance. But when you start doing stuff like this, where you start doing what I call living in the ribbon, not doing stuff like this, but you're doing stuff like this where you're living in it more, you're kind of disrespecting it more, the rejections aren't sending you to lower lows, or like if they are, it's just not as crazy as it was before. There's a momentum shift. And for the first time ever in Bitcoin Cash's history, you can see this yellow line is actually tilted to the upside. And it's not just the yellow line, it's the lines above it too, like the 3 subsequent EMAs afterwards as well. Typically in this environment, and I say typically, I mean this with like a certainty of 90% or more, okay? Likelihood, a 90% likelihood or more, 100%, like 90% of the time it works 100% of the time, okay? We would go above the red line. And not again, specifically the wording that I'm using here is not to the red line, but through the red line, above it. We would go above the red line. From an all-time high to an all-time low, right above that red line is 382. You guys, Bitcoin Cash, very well, right now, versus the BTC chart, could be making a run all the way up to this like 2% area. And maybe higher, maybe slightly lower, but something around there. That's another 168%. And this isn't just going to be from Bitcoin Cash moving sideways. This is going to be from the growth that it puts in alongside of Bitcoin and other cryptos here over the coming months. And then things are going to be wild. Things are going to be way different. Like then you're above the ribbon for the first time in your life. Then the ribbon looks like it's going to cross. Then you have higher highs, and you could be getting set up for your first higher high, higher low dynamic versus Bitcoin while Bitcoin's in a bear market. All these things have massively bullish implications here, you guys. Do you hear what I'm telling you? This weekly ribbon, you guys, other than the very beginning here where it was like false bullish, false bearish, whatever, has been bearish its whole life. Up until recently. Up until June of 2023. And now we don't just have like a false cross. We actually have like a real cross going on here, you guys. We have a real cross going on here. Something fierce is brewing. We're at $511. We can still go lower and still something fierce is brewing. I thoroughly expect that Bitcoin Cash will from here run to prices that are not just at this high, but above this high. Somewhere in between this high and this high here. For me, that target is $3,800. Is that right? 3,600. That sounds more appropriate, yeah. Or somewhere thereabouts. If we don't go here, we could stop just below. That's not normal, but I've seen it happen enough times this cycle to at least consider it. We could stop just below, but something that's well above $2,500 is what I would expect. Hit that like button, subscribe. Thank you all for being here. This should happen over the next month or two. This move to the upside should happen over the next month or two. Take care. Bye-bye.